So welcome everybody. This is our fifth edition of the Cougar Motorsport special stage. We started these a few weeks ago. And since then, once a week, we have a session when we talk about something that we liked or are passionate about. Today, we're going to be talking to Imroz Baig, and Imroz should be joining us any minute. The invite's already gone to him. We're going to be talking to Imroz, and I'll let him introduce himself about driving to Bhutan, and that's to the land of the Thunder Dragon. One of our trips to Bhutan, Imroz was a participant in that trip, and it was worthwhile that we have him on the show, and I think he'll tell you how transformational this trip was for him. We've done a couple of trips in the last year, and it's definitely something that I would suggest you all put on your bucket list. We started and entered Bhutan from West Bengal, so we started from Siliguri, and then the first day we crossed from Jaigaon into Phuntsholing. And that was for our permits and our vehicle permits and permits for people in the group. And based on past experience, this time around, we decided to stay the night at Phuntsholing. Now, when you drive to Bhutan, it's a short distance from Siliguri into Phuntsholing, so you don't really need to stay there that same night. You can carry on to Thimphu or Paro. But just to build in some contingency for getting the permits, etc., we stayed the night at Phuntsholing. The next day, we went from Phuntsholing onwards to Thimphu. We went to Thimphu and we stayed at the magnificent Taj Tashi, the best hotel in Thimphu. But before we got to the hotel, we still had time since we had the whole day with us to do the trip from Phuntsholing to Thimphu. We did a bit of sightseeing. So we went to the Memorial Chowton, and we did a bit of sightseeing in Thimphu the first day, went around to the markets. Everybody was soaking in the big change. You know, it's almost, it's just such a change when you cross into Bhutan from India. Everything quietens down. Everything changes so much. Everything's so green and beautiful. And that's when we walked around the market, tried some local food. The next day from Thimphu, we did again a little more sightseeing in the morning. So we visited the Buddha Dordinma, we saw the fort, and then we started driving to Punakha. Punakha used to be the old capital of Bhutan. Thimphu is the current capital of Bhutan. And we went to Punakha, enjoyed the drive via Dochula Pass and a couple of other things we did on the way. The next day was Punakha, and from the next day from Punakha, we did a bit of sightseeing again, some rafting, and then we drove into the beautiful Phobjika Valley. And from Phobjika Valley, then we returned to Paro and back from Paro into Siliguri. So that was a 6-night road trip in Bhutan, 6 nights in Bhutan. One night at the start and end at Siliguri. So you can see on the map over here, we started from Siliguri, crossed into Bhutan just next to Jaigaon in West Bengal. And from Phuntsholing up to Thimphu, then to Punakha, then to Phobjika Valley, and then backtrack to Paro, where we spent 2 nights. We spent 2 nights at Paro because I think all of you would know that there's the famous Tiger's Nest Monastery there, and a trek to that is almost mandatory if you go to Bhutan. So we spent 2 nights at Bhutan, and then we came back into Siliguri. We're just waiting for Imroz to come on while he's trying to get connected onto this show. All right, so to all the people who've joined, I just went through the itinerary that we followed. In the meantime, I've just sent an invite to another guest on the show who, let's see if I have better luck. And there he is. There he is. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to welcome Lendup. And that's Lendup. And Lendup is in Bhutan and connecting with us. Lendup, can you hear me?
Hello. Good evening. Good evening, Ashish. Good evening. Yes, I can hear you.
Good evening, Lendup. Good evening.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very well, and it's you know, I was trying to get Imroz, if you remember Imroz, who was on our trip with us.
Yeah.
We drove to Bhutan, and he's having some issues. His network's playing up, and he's not being able to join. So I thought, who else and who better than you to have a quick conversation with. So we were just doing a quick recap about the itinerary to Bhutan that we followed, Lendup, where we came into Phuntsholling, then to Thimphu, Punakha, Phobjikha, back to Paro and back. And the question was, if we were to plan another road trip to Bhutan, what could we do differently? What other places could we go to?
Well, thank you, and welcome to the call, all my friends and all the friends who have visited Bhutan, and I hope everybody is doing well. Well, Ashish, thank you for inviting me in this forum, which I'm indeed very happy to be here. Well, we have actually you can enter from Phuntsholling, and depending on how long the client will love to stay in Bhutan, because I'm trying to explore more into the wildlife, actually. I mean, into the forest, where the trip would be more adventure. You can drive to Phuntsholling, stay one night, as we did, so that we can have time to process our immigration. I have been telling you that as we have faced problem in the beginning, that online permits are not accepted when you are bringing your own car. So you have to visit personally there and process your vehicle permit and your visa. So it takes almost like 3 to 4 hours, depending on the group.
I'm just going to interrupt for a second. I think Imroz is there on the show for sure. Imroz, if you could just give me a few minutes, I'll cover a bit with Lendup, and we'll try again to get you back on. All right, Lendup. So yeah, the question was, what else could we do?
Okay. So we can spend the night in Phuntsholling, and then I think rather than staying in Thimphu, because Thimphu, everybody knows, it's a capital city. It's more or less like what you are seeing in India. It's big. Might not be a big city for you guys, but for us, it's a big city. So we try to skip Thimphu. From Phuntsholling, we go to either to Ha now, because I think we have not been to Ha before.
No, not to the Ha.
Yeah. Ha, we have a lot of roads where it's not blacktop. Blacktop, I mean, it's not paved, where you can have a really off-road drive.
Lovely.
Ha, yes, Ha. Then from Ha, actually, we can come back to Paro via Chelela Pass. By Chelela Pass, which is like almost 2 hours drive. And then from there, actually, we spend night in Paro, and then most people will love to do tiger nest. We always say, if you have been to Bhutan and if you have not been to the tiger nest, your trip is incomplete. So we keep 1 day for tiger nest, and in the evening, those who have energy, they can also do I have explored, actually, Ashish, I have already explored some off-road drive now, because last year we didn't have much time. I didn't have much idea also. So this time now I have explored few short off-road drive in Paro. And then from Paro we can drive to Punakha, which is around 3 hours drive, let's say. And then from Punakha we can go to Phobjikha. Depending on how long you're going to stay. If it is 1 week, then we can go up to Tongsa. It is in the central part of Bhutan.
Well, there's also the other option of continuing towards Bumthang and Samdrup and coming out in Assam, right? And exiting from there. Is that option still possible, coming out at Guwahati?
Well, Ashish, this has been some issue with our government and I think the government of Assam.
Okay.
I think we are negotiating right now. We are negotiating, but suddenly this COVID came out and I really don't know what things will, But I think if that works, that is really a perfect, drive. You can enter. You can either enter from Phinsuling, or you can either enter from Samdrup Jongka.
Right.
Which that I cannot guarantee because with this COVID-19, everything is changing now. Even like a royalty of 1,200 1,200 INR.
Yes.
We are approaching now our Tourism Council of Bhutan to waive up that because now tourism has totally gone down. So we want more attraction of tourists. So not to charge 1,200, which is they're supposed to charge by July 2020.
Yes.
So
well,
things changing.
I for one am not against that. I think that there should be a focus on quality rather than quantity. And you should get the kind of tourists who do contribute to your sustainable development fund so that, Bhutan can be preserved the way it is. So I'm not against it, but yes, if it gets postponed or delayed, a lot of people will benefit. But even if it doesn't go away, it's in any case so much lower than what other people pay, right? People other than from India. So
Exactly. Yes.
It's still okay. But so we're talking to Lendup right now, and those who've come onto the show probably wondering, where's Imroz? So we're going to try and get Imroz back. We're going to try and get him onto this show. Lendup is joined us from Bhutan. He runs an organization called Click Bhutan, and he organizes tours into Bhutan. And he's also an expert photographer himself.
Thank you.
Very knowledgeable, very well connected. So stay with us, Lendup. I'm going to try and get Imroz back, and we'll keep on coming back to you for questions, right? So I'm just going to try.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All right. So we were just talking to Lendup from Bhutan, and I'm going to just try and get our guest on the show. Still trying to get him. We've got him. Really?
Yeah. Hey, Ashish. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Finally.
As long as it worked out. So welcome to the show, Imroz. It's so nice to see you now.
Thank you.
Eid Mubarak again to you. If you had been on your trip to Ladakh as you were planning at this time, I think you would have been celebrating Eid, because I read that in Kargil they're celebrating today because they saw the moon. So
right.
Welcome. So we were just with Lendup, and while you were trying to get things sorted, I don't know how much you heard. We did a quick recap, Imroz, of the route that we followed into Bhutan, the map, all the places we drove to. And we asked Lendup about possible changes to this itinerary. And he suggested going into the Ha Valley, and he suggested a couple of other things. And we also talked about continuing and exiting possibly, so entering from West Bengal and exiting in Assam. So carrying on from Phobjikha to Bumthang and Samdrup and coming out at Guwahati. Various things which are possible based on the number of days that we have. But I'm just going to ask you, to quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll come straight into your views about the itinerary we followed. And if you were to go back, what would you do differently?
Sure. So thank you, Ashish, once again for sharing this special stage with me, and thank you for the wishes, and welcome everyone, and apologies for the delay. And yes, so I am Imroz Baig. I have working with like all the multinational banks, but now I am like full-time traveler, and that too a road traveler. And very inspirational trip Bhutan was for me. And probably I was thinking from long, like I have to do this. But when I met Ashish, and he had a similar story, so that kind of inspired me to get into like road traveling full time. So now I have a company called Nikalpada, where Ashish just talked about it, that yes, I would have been to Ladakh by this time if the COVID crisis was not there and celebrating the Eid. And coming back to the Bhutan trip and itinerary, for me, it was like perfect because I was able to hear you, Ashish, like while you were talking, it's just my video was not connecting. So yeah, you can't get better than this. Like when you enter from Fushling, doing Thimphu and a beautiful administrative building, you enter like a different country altogether where people respect traffic rules a lot. And that's something like amazing to see all the pickups you see. And yeah, beautiful country. And as you see in the map, we went to Paro, we went to the Phobjika Valley. Uh, so yeah, it was like all in all a great trip for me, a lot of memories and the trek, right? So yeah, like you can continue if you have some other questions.
Right. So, as you heard Imroz telling you, I think Bhutan somehow was a transformational trip for him because he came back and we connected on the phone a couple of weeks after that, and he told me he's quit his job. He's quit his job and only to travel and only to do road trips around the country. And he's been driving a lot in the last 1 year. So, welcome, welcome to the community in that. And it's so good to connect with you and talk about Bhutan with you because it has some special memories for you. So right, so the various itineraries possible. I think we touched most of the places that one would like to go to. Let's talk about some of the places we saw. When we went to all these places. I mean, it just wasn't a road trip, right? We were just not trying to get from point A to point B. We were trying to see things as well. So. Starting from Thimphu, if I let you do the talking, if you could just tell us a little bit about, like the first day, I think we took you to see the memorial Chotin.
Yes. And yeah, that was like a beautiful one where it is like I don't remember the names of all of them, but it is in the memory of third
Yes.
some king, right? And we went inside the all around like the spirituality or the purity. You see it in the atmosphere or inside the zone, and it's beautiful white structure. And when you talk about memories, yeah, we took one good pic in front of it, and that like those memories stays with you like forever. And then I think after Thimphu, we moved to yeah.
The same evening you went to see the Tashiko Zong, the Zongza fort, right? So that was, I think, not everybody went, but some of you went to see the fort in Thimphu itself, and
Yes.
stuff. I think, and only the next day we started our drive to Punakha, and en route to Punakha was the Dochula Pass. You remember stopping there?
Yes. So that's, I think, the highest altitude point of Bhutan, and it has a beautiful memorial. If I'm not wrong, like 103 chortens are there, right?
108.
Eight.
108.
Okay, yeah, 108. And we visited there. There's a beautiful cafe also on the side. We had some cakes and coffee. So, and it was raining. And like, yeah, and there was like a little bit of fog as well. So, yeah, that pass again, like it stamps the memory there when you reach that high altitude, and then yes, you're going somewhere like which is heaven. And that's where like the other name of Bhutan is like the last Shangri-La, right?
Yeah. So we continued towards Punakha. And just short of Punakha, we trekked through these fields, if you remember, to the fertility temple, the Chimilakan, right?
Right.
It was just perfect weather, and the sky and just everything was just so beautiful. And that's the
Yeah.
fertility. Yeah.
And like when you said trek, right, it was like a beautiful trek because there were like fields and like rice fields, and the locals were passing. We saw like kids like coming from the school, and when we entered the zone or the fertility temple, sorry, on the way there were like two kids who were singing in the local language there, and beautiful, like two cute girls, and that was all one memory.
Wow.
And this temple as well, like it's very bold, but it's like it's the fact, right? It's something like it is created by the madman, but it is essential. And yeah, it's like now if you connect it to the crisis where like humanity is in danger, so something related to this is like very important, right? If you talk about reproduction or like saving the human race, some things like this. So everything is like so connected to the nature, to like human life. Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of belief. Yeah, a lot of people go there, and yeah, and then Punakha, the beautiful Punakha Zong, right? The second largest fort.
Yeah,
We visited
I
that.
think it's the oldest as well, right? It is the
No, this is
so,
not the oldest. I think this is the second oldest. The oldest is the Simthoka Zong,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is
the second oldest. Yeah,
second
so
largest,
second largest and the oldest.
but the prettiest, I think. I mean, I mean, just my opinion, but it's the prettiest. And just down that river that is next to the Zong is where we did the rafting, right? The next morning.
Yes.
So
So,
I
like, talking about the like the beautiful part, what I liked about that song is like it's huge and it is beautiful, but there's a bridge, right, which
yes,
crosses this river, as you like see in the pic as well. That like adds to the beauty and the safety part as well. So, and then yeah, coming back to the river, the rafting was a great experience. Like team effort, as well as we had one dare as well where we can jump in the cold water because this was like a freezing cold one.
yeah.
And yeah, one by one I was the last one to do, but amazing. That was so refreshing, the water itself.
Oh,
And yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, Punakha was really worth a visit. But then I think the prettiest part that we went to, at least in Bhutan, was Phobjika. If you remember, and that was my
yes.
first trip to Phobjika as well. I'd never been to Phobjika before. So just getting into that valley, and I have some pictures somewhere. Yeah, so that's, I think, the first time we stopped to just take it all in as to, where we reached. Yeah,
Yes.
beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's a beautiful valley. Like, and no wonder, like the cranes, Siberian cranes, and the special black cranes, they
Yeah,
come. And like, amazing part is like there is again like one of the oldest zongs there, and
that,
they take yeah, that one, and they take circles
yeah,
around like the zong before they land, and they come to like lay eggs, and then again fly with their kids. But this song has some connection to them, and it's a beautiful song as well. And you can see like it's very old, right, and a huge one, and it's a great height as well. So
yeah.
they come, they like revolve around it. I think 7 or 10 times what we were told, and then they go back to that valley and they find a spot for nesting. So yeah, Phobjika Valley was again like one of the most beautiful places of Bhutan to visit.
One little anecdote that I still remember, the night we were at Phobjika, and there were all these crazy guys, including you, who wanted to see the finale of the Game of Thrones. And
Yes,
it was bearing up so much in your minds that when we were at the Gangte Monastery and you saw the big black crows, you were all imagining them to be ravens. And
yes,
And that night, I think all of you huddled into one room and somehow managed to download it and watch it. So yeah,
Yeah, good you brought that point up. Yeah, that was one big memory where that was the last season and the last episode, and we wanted to watch it. And Ajay, like one of our participants, he helped us to hack in and then kind of make some network connections where we can watch that. And we huddled together in one room, everyone, and watch that. That's like, yeah, one good memory of that place.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. So Phobjika is a must visit. I think anybody who goes and comes back from Punakha is really missed something really amazing. And there's good hospitality possible. And we went off-roading in Phobjika as well in a
Yes.
very responsible manner. Definitely didn't do anything which would damage anything. So there was these roads we discovered, and we took the cars there. And you, of course, tested a different vehicle altogether. So
Yes.
coming back towards Paro then, and I think when we were talking about Thimphu, the one thing that I got that I missed out was the visit to the gigantic Shakyamuni statue, the Buddha Dordenma.
Yes.
That's again a must visit to do when you're in Thimphu, and all these beautiful statues around it. So we came back to Paro then, and that was the last city on our, in Bhutan that we were going to visit. And then we stayed in Paro for 2 nights. And tell us about the trek that was the bad weather and the rain.
Yeah.
It all made it even more interesting.
Yeah, so I was like thinking a few days back when Amphan hit, right? And there was a similar kind of system, like just exactly 1 year back, not that big as big as Amphan, where it was like raining heavily when we reached Paro, and like we were not sure if we'll be able to do the trek next day. And but we said, okay, let's be hopeful, let's check the weather. And we checked with the locals how good or bad. Till the morning we were not sure, but then we went for it. And that morning I fell also, and I had hurt my leg. But yeah, that was like, if you see the pic, it's motivating, a very motivating trek, and one of the most beautiful treks in the world, I would put it that way. Like the Zong, the tiger's nest, is like has an amazing story where a flying tiger kind of entered into the cave, and the trek itself is like kind of difficult as well as easy. It depends, like it goes up and down. In the end, you cross a waterfall that's in the mountain. So like that trek itself is something which everyone should do, because yes, that's very iconic, like how Taj Mahal or things are to India or other places. This Tiger's Nest Monastery is very iconic to Bhutan. And when you see Bhutan, this is the picture which is like
Yes.
most floated. And yes, it's worth it. I would say that's something we ended it on a high note, where we did the trek, and it was worth.
Yeah.
So yes, great memory.
And traveling together, we definitely have to do some of the more interesting stuff, right? So do you remember the visit to the club that night in Paro?
Yes.
Paro has a really
Yeah.
nice club, guys. It's called Park 66 with live music. And the bar, this is a photograph of the bar. And I don't know how they've got these, but there are registration plates of cars from around the world. We saw some Land Rover plates as well. And then there was a Chandigarh plate. I don't know if it actually came off a car which came from Chandigarh, and why did it get left behind in Paro? I can't figure out. But that was a really nice little place that we went to. Food and drink. What do you remember? What do you remember about things that you ate and drank? Well, I don't think you don't drink, right? You don't drink alcohol.
Yeah, but like when it came to drink, like everybody was going for the Ara, the local, and yeah, like Zumzin was also there. But yeah, though I don't drink, but yeah, I saw like people enjoying, including you, the different taste, and the local beer, the rice beer which they have called
Yeah.
Ara, and
You
momos
went,
were there in terms of food,
did you go?
and
Did you go for the stone bath? Did you go for the hot stone?
Yes.
And did
Yeah, that,
did they serve you the ara after that?
yes, they did.
Yeah, that's how they do it, right? After the bath, you come and you get, you get sozzled, right? So
Yeah, and that was also like very like what do you say refreshing in terms of how we did the entire trek and then coming out of it end of the day going for this stone bath, which is just they heat up the stone and put some herbs, and as you rightly mentioned at the end of the spa or bath, however you want to call it, they give you this ara, which is like, yeah, very soothing. I saw people enjoying it, so like, yeah, I can connect, though I don't drink, but yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
food and drink was like absolutely amazing too as well.
On one of my earlier trips, and this may not be of interest to you, Imroz, but to some of the others on the program, we came across this single malt, and this is Bhutanese whiskey, and it's appropriately named 1907. And I'll wait till the end of this program and see if anybody, other than Lendop, if anybody can answer what is the relevance of 1907 in Bhutan. But we'll carry on. And Imroz, so we've talked about places we went to, the itinerary, we've talked about food and drink, but I think what I really want to cover with you now is the people and culture. What, in your own words, if you can describe, what was your impression about the people, their culture, and just the whole, the literal, the concept of gross national happiness, which we saw literally, we experienced literally.
Yeah, so like people are very important part of like any country, and that's what like the country is made of people, right? And like nature is the other thing, the landscape, and that's how like they have connected themselves to the nature first. Like they are very cautious about it. They come up with this happiness index where they connect themselves to the nature, as well as if they uproot or like they have to cut any tree, they kind of replant the same amount or kind of an additional amount too. Plus, there are like various rules which they follow, where, as I mentioned initially, like if it's like even giving a way to a vehicle or a people, they are very well behaved in that terms, very well disciplined in that term. That was like very commendable in terms of how they drive there. And being a driver, that like kind of hit me first. Second is the respect to the king. And the king in turn also like take care of the people as well. It's not just one way, it's like both ways, where they respect the king a lot and the king takes care of the people a lot. So it's like goes hand in glove. So yeah, plus they are like very well attached to their traditions, the dresses they wear, it's beautiful, like how they carry themselves, how they teach, and they are very like genuine people. I don't see any corruption or any kind of law which is being broken. Also, there's no caste system
Yes.
there. Yeah, there is like they are free, they are connected, but they don't differentiate among anything else. So like they are nature loving. So very simple and very well behaved, very connected to nature. The people very connected to their tradition, their leader, and they respect others as well. So when you go there, very hospitable. They like they will host you very well in terms of showing you places, helping you around, like smiling all the time. So yeah, very hospitable
Yeah, I
people.
think you've hit it on the head. I think just the respect that they have for each other, for other people, for their king, for the royal family, for law, road rules. That's the biggest thing, which at least I just can't, understand as to how something can change so drastically by just traveling a few hundred kilometers out of India. But anyhow, let's not talk about that. Every time we on the drive, if there was any member of the royal family who was driving past with their entourage, and the cars used to have Bhutan 5 and Bhutan 4 and registration plates, the entire traffic would stop. Nobody would ask them to stop, but everybody would just stop as a mark of respect. And I mean, it's things like these which you just are amazed with. Even in today's times, there must be something, as you said, the king must be looking after people so well that they love him so much.
Yeah, probably that's the reason we got this whole feeling of Game of Thrones from there, where the kings and the queens still exist and the respect, and you see this beautiful architecture, big like zongs and monasteries and valleys. So yeah, it's very like Gothic that way.
So Imroz, I'm going to get Lendo back. I just want to cover a few things with Lendo.
Sure.
But before that, what's next on your list? Where is Nikalpada going next?
So as you mentioned initially, I was waiting for the Leh trip, and I'm still waiting. So the time has not passed. Hopefully, like India is opening for business and everything. Let's see. I'm just waiting and watching. As soon as like the flight opens, my car is in Bhubaneswar, so I need to get that first, and we'll see if I can drive from there. Because initial plan of covering entire northeast, and as you mentioned, there was an option to go from Assam as well. So I was exploring that, but now the whole northeast is off the plan. So I'll be probably going directly to Leh. So let's hope I'm able to do that.
Well, great. I hope we can do a road trip together, Imroz. It was wonderful being with you. I remember both of us had a little more fun than the others on the lovely roads of Bhutan. But again, that's for another discussion altogether. So I'm going to just request Lendup. I hope Lendup's still on the call. Lendup, I'm going to send you an invite. If you could come back on the show. And Imroz, thank you again. Thank you so much. I realized later that, we timed this in such a way. I don't know if you happen to, eat yet and break your fast or not, but I'm so sorry. We never, it just didn't strike me before.
No, that's fine. That's okay. That's still like time.
Eid Mubarak again to you. So I'm just going to get Lendup on. All right. So that was Imroz. Lovely to talk to him. And, can you imagine? He's such a lucky guy that he can now drive, and that's all he wants to do around the country. So if Lendup is still on the call, if he can just send me an invite, and I'd like to get him on to the on the screen. All right, but if you're planning a trip to Bhutan, a couple of things that you should know about. The roads are excellent. The roads are all built by the Border Roads Organization in India. So you really don't need to make any special plans for, preparing your car in any way for bad roads, etc. Indian cars can be taken across into Bhutan. You get a permit at Phuntsholing for the number of days that you're going to drive. You don't need a local Bhutanese number. Your insurance does not work in Bhutan. So remember that your car insurance policy is only for India, and you have to get a special endorsement if you want to drive and take it across into Bhutan. It's very, very reasonable, a few hundred rupees, but it's worth doing that. In terms of fuel, again, there are no fuel pumps along the highway as such, but distances are not much, and Paro has 2 pumps, I think. Thimphu has a few. Punakha has a pump. I don't remember any pump at Phobjika. So you're good as long as you keep filling up in time. Plan your trip to, if you want to see places, bear in mind the opening and closing times of the permit office, as well as the all the monuments and tourist places that you're going to visit. And bear in mind, Bhutan is 30 minutes ahead of India. So as soon as you cross from Jaegaon into Phuncholing, you've got to set your clock, advance your clock, because otherwise you'll reach too late for your permits. And I don't know, I can't get Lindup on for some reason, but I don't know if Lindup can hear me. But never mind. The driving rules in Bhutan, that's the last bit that I want to touch upon before we end this. And so there's a couple of rules, and all for the good. So no horns at all. Nobody honks. So please give up that habit from as soon as you cross into Bhutan. Speed limits. There are speed limits enforced throughout the country, and typically it's a limit of 50 kilometers an hour. So you do not speed and you do not race across Bhutan. Then in terms of lane driving, very, very important. These are narrow mountain roads, and it's very important to stick to your lanes. Just not expected. Nobody expects that a car would be in the wrong lane on a corner. So they drive accordingly, and you've got to get used to that. And there's a very interesting protocol if you want to overtake a car. So no horns, but you just use your dipper, flash your headlights, and if they will use their indicators to tell you whether it's safe for you to pass or not. If they use the right indicator, means no, hold on. And if they use the left indicator, means it's clear, you can pass. Other than that, everything's just the same, right and drive and all. I'm sorry, I still can't get Lendu back on this. I don't see how I can do that, but thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Imroz, and thank you, Lendu, for sharing. I'll just repeat, we were on the special stage number 5, and we do these once a week, talk about things that we're passionate about, and we were talking about a road trip to Bhutan, and it's something that you all who haven't done it should definitely put it on your bucket list. Thank you again for joining us.